It's a slow process, this book.
Yes, it is.
I think it's better that way, but
I think you have to. I don't think it's a book that you can just read through and understand.
yeah,
I think you have to reread.
it's a slow process, this book.
Yes, it is.
I think it's better that way. There we go. Okay. Welcome, everybody. We got this
Hi.
this YouTube thing licked, I think. Like the echoing and all of that. So today we are starting on chapter 3 of A Course in Miracles, The Innocent Perception. And yeah, so far, how are you finding it so far, Kathy?
I find it actually quite interesting. I find the further I get along, the more I understand what I'm reading. So that's helpful. I think once you get kind of past the lingo of it all, right? Because it's written there's a lot of perception, let's just say, in this book. So it's between trying to find the perception versus the truth and getting through that. How about you, Linda?
Well, I find that, you know, we're only still very early on in the book, but I'm finding it so much easier to let go of things that I've held on to in the past, or like spent more time trying to figure out like certain emotions or certain situations, that now it's just like, yeah, that's just easy to let go, because you just recognize like that's not even really based in a true reality of what we should be concerned about.
Right. Which is really, when you think about it, it's kind of, it's crazy. Sorry, I have a tail. Oh, my cat. That was fun.
Yeah. So I find for that reason, it's really allowed me to make a lot of space in my mind for other things that I want to spend more time on. How do you find it, Annie, Michelle?
Hi.
How are you?
Very good. How about you guys?
Good, very good.
Good.
I was just curious because we're just talking about our experience with reading the book so far. What's been your experience with it so far?
I find you have to concentrate so much, but I'm always looking forward to it because I get this good feeling of fulfillment after reading it, in the same way that like you just perceive your life such a different way, that things don't seem to matter that much, you know. We're just that shift in perception is like slowly happening. But it's easy to go to get caught up in things again. And then that's why I like trying to do it every day, because then it's a new reminder every day to shift that focus again, until hopefully eventually it's going to really, stick.
Yeah. And these conversations actually really help me out a lot. Right?
Me too.
I hear lots of different perspectives, and it helps me to put things that I find confusing or that I have a hard time understanding. It helps me to like reframe it so that it makes more sense in my head too. So
yeah,
thank you all for that, because it's really helped a lot.
I find it's more motivated knowing that other people are reading, and to try to not keep up. I don't feel as stressed to keep up, but just knowing that, in a time that maybe I would want to procrastinate, I'm like, I don't want to get too much behind. And then I started, and when I do, I'm so happy that I did.
So true. Yeah, so today we're starting chapter 3, and I just finished chapter 3, I think it was 2 nights ago. And then I kind of went over everything last night to just kind of refresh a little bit.
Right.
Yep.
But I love that. And I like the pace. I don't find it's too fast. I find that it's okay if I don't do it every single day.
Exactly.
But when I do, it's like I can get in 2 or 3 pages and it's like, okay, this is good. I don't feel like pushed to read a whole bunch. So
I know. And I think it's I've come to believe that it's kind of purposely a bit complicated to read, because that's the way that we're going to assimilate the material the best for some reason.
interesting.
because I've listened to a lot of channelings and people that get messages from intuitive writings, and normally it's a lot clearer, I feel. But I think that like having to study it is part of the way that we assimilate it. So,
Well, and that's that left brain, right brain, right? So
yeah.
if we want the left brain to understand more of the creativity behind it all, then we need to be engaging those two sides of the brain, maybe.
Right. And I think if we were able to just read through it, you would not get what you're getting out of it, because you have to
Exactly.
stop. You have to read it again, and
Mhm.
you're like, wait a minute, did that make sense? And then I read it again. So, and then I get a perception of what other people think. So, in between all of that, somewhere the messages are really coming across,
Yeah,
Exactly.
if that
And
makes sense.
it wouldn't make sense to have this big shift in perception in like 1 month or 2 weeks. So that's why it might take a couple years to read it. And I think it's just
Yeah.
normal because that little increments of understanding need to happen maybe a bit more slower for me anyways.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, and I see the benefits of taking our time within my life and my experience. So I'm very thankful for that.
Me
Um,
too.
All right, so we're starting chapter 3, the innocent perception. And it talks about atonement without sacrifice. That's the first paragraph. I have a little star next to paragraph number 4. Sacrifice is a notion totally unknown to God. It arises solely from fear, and frightened people can be vicious.
Yeah.
I thought that was a good one.
I'm sorry, where was that, Linda?
That's paragraph number 4 under the first atonement without sacrifice.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, I might jump around because there's like a few things that I thought were really cool in this first little part. If you go to paragraph 3, line 5, his mind does not create. So God does not believe in retribution. His mind does not create that way. He does not hold your evil deeds against you. It is likely that he would hold them against me. Is it likely that he would hold it against me? Be very sure that you recognize how utterly impossible assumption is and how entirely it arises from projection. So there's forgiveness in everything.
You would never see it that easy, though, would you? How many things? Yeah.
Like, so now I my mom has been making me, I can't say making me, watching a lot of like serial killer stuff.
Oh my gosh.
And so it, like, if we go back to the Jeffrey Dahmer stuff, that he was, what he had done in his life, but he was, not happy with himself with the things that he did. When they arrested him, he said, I should be punished for what I've done. He just wanted to die. He just wanted his life to be over because he didn't want to do those things. Right. But then you look at, other ones where they don't have that kind of feeling of guilt or anything like that. And I'm just curious, does that create a spirit that gets lost in, because there's like the purgatory area where the spirit doesn't go to the light right away and it kind of stays in the in-between. It just poses all these different questions inside of my head. And I know for sure that God will receive anybody. And there's not even a spirit that can be alive without the connection to God, right? Like even the evil ones. So like those in-betweens, it just, it poses so many questions in my head.
So I saw that. I actually read that, and this is how I it rattled my brain a little bit too, I have to say. So I guess my thought is that if we perceive it as the way that A Course in Miracles is written, I understand it that we are all on earth right now. There's no heaven, there's no hell. It is what we've created. So once we've reached the atonement part of our lives, then that means we've completed all of the lessons that we need to achieve, and that we continue to walk on earth with other spirits, our family, friends. Although other people can't see us, we are there. Okay, so that's my perception, right? So heaven to me is we're in it, we're on earth. And when we reach that level of atonement where we have complete happiness and we've learned all of the lessons that we need to learn, then that's where we achieve this. So it's not really that, because I guess my question was always like, why would God accept criminals into heaven? Like, so you're like, serial killers come in too? Like, are they going to spiritually kill us again? Honestly, all these things are things that you think about. So, like you, I am curious. I wish if someone did have the answer, I'm with you. I wonder, where's that in between?
Mhm.
Are they stuck? Are they, or do they just die, relive again,
Mhm.
and start over in the new life with different lessons? You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. I when we did the dying process, the afterlife, and then preparing, when we did that series, I did come across where spirits get trapped in different areas because they get trapped in their feelings or their emotions in their physical worlds, and they don't step out of it when they die. They continue, like their spirit part of themselves continue to relive that until they decide, okay, there has to be something different. And then as soon
Right.
as that decision is made within them, they automatically start to raise higher and higher to go and rejoin the spirit world. That was my understanding of that. So I'm just curious,
Good.
like, the evil of the evil, they don't,
Yeah.
they would just continue living that until they say, okay, there has to be something better, right? And it really starts to make you question, because later on in this chapter, actually, they talk a little bit about the devil and
Yeah.
what that is, right? So yeah, so it's really interesting. So we'll have to get to that
I
after.
think for me, there's an extra perception to add to this is that we're all really one. So that murderer is in a way a part of us. And he says in the book at a moment that, like, I think it was more at the beginning, that we can't advance or rise without everyone being on the same page
Right.
about that.
Yes.
So that makes me think that I think we reincarnate and we go into a place between lives that's pure love, and we remember, and then we come back, and hopefully at some point everyone's going to start raising a bit together at different paces, of course. And so the fact that we're raising maybe a little bit quicker, which isn't again a judgment, it's just the way it is, we're going to help him raise as well, hopefully. So maybe exponentially at one point when there's more and more people raising. So we're going to help bring that, that soul maybe that had a harder time seeing the light or being the light or expressing the true light within. It's going to help him express that and maybe change. And that space, sorry, I don't want to go on, but that space, I had read that there was some tribes like the Aztecs, or in Mexico, I think, some lost civilizations that they don't know, they
Yes.
just disappeared all of a sudden. And I read that it's because the whole, like, I think this was Dolores Cannon maybe that had said this, that the whole civilization had came to a point where they were ready to rise, so they just completely disappeared from the earth plane. So I think that it needs to happen everyone together, not like it's not like, oh, we're going to do this and a couple of us are going to disappear. It's going to, everyone needs to raise at the, at a certain point for everyone to anyway. So that's my
Well,
take on it.
and yeah,
I
and
love
going
that.
yeah, that is really, and I did come across that through the Dolores Cannon stuff. And something else that I come across was that there was going to be two groups. Then this is what Dolores Cannon talks about, is that there's two groups, that one is going to rise and then the other, and then it splits. It's almost like there'll be two earths,
Wow.
Wow.
right? Because, some people are just not there. They're not ready,
Right.
but there's a large group that is waking up, that is raising consciousness, that is like kind of going to that. So it's an interesting idea.
So what
Yeah.
about, so when I look at, when I read the book, oh my goodness, I'm sorry. Completely just lost my train of thought.
That's okay.
The Celestial Prophecies.
Mm.
So when you read the Celestial Prophecies, at one point they talk about they're in the forest and there's people after them and they're trying to escape and they all rise up to a point where they can't see them. They're invisible.
Yeah.
Mm.
So it's almost like you can leave the earth plane but you come back once you lose that momentum. So if you're totally in the light and you are 100%, you're feeling the energy, all of that, you can leave that earth plane, but then you come back. And it's
Mhm.
like you said, we're always trying to get back to that place.
Yeah.
And, but I think it kind of gave them a glimpse. Now, are we all capable of doing that? I imagine we are.
Mhm.
Like you said, people are in different stages of their awakening. But it would be interesting to know more about that, how you can come and go.
Mhm.
Mm.
Absolutely. And
Well,
there was, sorry, what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, I'm reading another book that I just finished, is Autobiography of a Yogi. I don't know if you guys have read it.
Oh, no.
And it's, anyways, it's these yogis that understand so much that nothing is real. And this is like apparently true stories, that they can appear and disappear to
Yes.
tell messages to each other because nothing is real. So once you really, really understand this, anything is possible, you know? So maybe in the Celestine prophecy, I've read it too long ago, but maybe that's what they just decide, everyone together, let's disappear to hide for a bit, and then they can come back at their own will when you understand that we're the ones creating all this anyways.
Yes. Yes.
No,
Mm.
That's a
and
great way to look at it.
yeah, and if I recall too, in the Celestine prophecies, if they were too entrenched in their own fears, they couldn't do it.
Right.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes.
And then they talk about in here the importance of like fear is an illusion, that you have to let it go,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because they would literally start to fade back into the earth because they were becoming afraid. And as you can imagine, if you have soldiers coming after you with machine guns, that's that time where you have to get out of your head and you really have to be connected. And it's about being connected to your power. And once you're connected to that power, I think, and you have to be able to stay there, that's
Mm-hmm.
when you're able to rise above. But like you said, as soon as that fear kicks in, that's a different situation
Yeah. Yeah.
Which
And
because that's
kind
where
of
we live.
happens, it happens to us even during the day. Like, let's say
Yes.
I'll read a couple pages and then I feel super connected, and then as the day goes on, little things happen, and then you come back into fear, other emotions, and then like kind of like on a smaller scale even happens.
Yes,
Mhm.
exactly.
Yeah.
It kind of makes sense when you think about it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's so many different layers to our being. I was just thinking about this as I was reading through this stuff yesterday, is there's so many different layers to our being that, you know, if there was a fear that was decided, you know, say when you're 9 years old, that fear carries on with you over and over and over again as soon as it gets triggered until you go back and like sit with that 9-year-old and talk with her and help her to realize that it's not
Exactly.
something that she needs to sit in all the time. So it's such an interesting idea.
Mhm.
And you know, then later in the chapter too, they talk about the devil, and I think they talk a little bit about addictions in there as well,
Mhm.
and how, you know, the fears are like pushing you into those directions. But maybe we just need to keep going and go through some lines.
Yeah.
um, okay, there was paragraph number 5. The lion and the lamb laying down together symbolize that strength and innocence are not in conflict. So I feel like there's this impression that if somebody is too innocent, and they call that being gullible or or you know what I mean? It's kind of almost like a judgment if you're too innocent, but there's so much strength in that innocence.
Mhm.
Mhm.
It reminded me when I read that part that children come into life so innocent. And I wonder if it's because they just came straight from the source. So there's such a big part of them that remembers all these teachings without having to read it. Because kids
Yes.
are so innocent, they don't expect anything bad to happen. They don't think they could be kidnapped, they're just so gullible and naive, like we would say, because they're so pure still of light and this understanding that we're relearning.
Yeah.
I agree with that. And there's a time when my granddaughter was 2.5 and she wanted to swim. You could see it. She wanted to swim her little arms in that water and she wanted to go under the water. She kept trying to go under the water and we were afraid for her, of course. She's
Mm.
2. In her eyes, I saw it. I swear to you, what I saw was a smile and a look that said to me, Nana, I've done this before. I know what
Mm.
I'm doing and I'm okay. And I knew she was. She remembered how to do this because you could just see it in her eyes. So I think there's that innocent period where they still remember and they know they're capable and they're just happy about everything.
Mm.
Yeah. And
So
no
yeah,
at all.
none.
Um, so that at the beginning of paragraph 6, innocence is incapable of sacrificing anything because the innocent mind has everything and strives only to protect its wholeness. It cannot project. It can only honor other minds because honor is the natural greeting of true love to others who are like them.
Yeah.
I think that's beautifully read.
Mm-hmm.
Only the attempt to shroud in the darkness have made it inaccessible to those who do not choose to see it.
Mm.
Yeah. Does anybody want to say anything else about those? I like that line. That's why
I do too.
I feel it's just so beautiful to think that every time you see someone, instead of being like projecting pity, being like, oh, poor them, they don't have a good life. It's just honoring that that's the journey they chose and they have the power. And then you're kind of giving them something in that way of perceiving them. It's just honoring.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Or like, let's say you want to help someone, but to just honor their journey, that's what they're doing and they have the strength. And it's just giving them back a power in a way to just always honor everyone and see them for who they truly are.
Absolutely. And the light that they live. Like,
Mhm.
I find that we see so much when we see that somebody has done something maybe to hurt us, or that we, cast them out, or what's the right word? Like, we don't see the light inside of them, like say like,
Mhm.
like maybe they didn't mean to hurt me. Maybe it was not an intentional, they're still beings of God. They're, made whatever choice that they made for that was good for them, instead of this, just see, I have a hard time finding the words for this particular, but this is a lesson that's been kind of
Yeah.
coming through for me is, if somebody feels like something is right for them and it's not right for you, it doesn't mean that person is coming from a dark place,
Exactly.
but
I think it's right. And it's really about, it doesn't matter what your perception is. It is really just accepting each other as who we are. And we don't need to know the reason. We don't need for anyone to justify who they are, or what they do, or how they react. It's just about letting people be who they are and just accepting who they are and accepting each other. We're all here for different reasons. Like you said, some people will live the same story over and over. That's okay. They're not ready for change yet. It just means that you need to separate the emotion from it, especially when dealing with someone close to you that might be stuck in those patterns. Do you know what I mean? Because we look at that same pattern and we get triggered over and over because we see something that we perceive is wrong.
That's right.
So we want to fix them. We're like, that's not right. You need to fix that. But it's right for them. And we just have to be understanding and find a way to put it into perspective for ourselves that it's not about you. It has nothing to do with you. You just need to see it, let go of that emotion that you're attached to it, and take what you can from that conversation that's good for you and move on.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's very well said. So true.
Mhm.
Okay, if we look at paragraph 7, line number 4, innocence is wisdom because it is unaware of evil, and evil does not exist. And
Mhm.
then I have good can withstand any form of evil as light abolishes form of darkness. That's all in that chapter and that 7th paragraph. And then if we go down to the end of paragraph 8, the understanding of the innocence is truth. That is why their altars are truly radiant. And then it talks too a lot about how the atonement is the alignment of truth in that everything and everyone is made of light,
Mhm.
Yes.
right? So anything that's not in alignment with that truth it's not real. It's not truth. It's
Yeah, and imagine being received wherever you go with people that see the light in you instead of them judging you.
Mhm.
How different you could be, because I feel that that plays a role, like, you know, the perceptions of others, and like when we perceive someone as weak or whatever, instead of just perceiving them as strong, like we're changing a bit the way they are, I think.
absolutely. This was something that I became aware of when I was in my early 20s, when, I could sense, I was really always very sensitive of everybody's ideas and thoughts of what they saw of me.
Mhm.
But I could just really love an animal so freely and so fully and receive that love so fully with no filters, no ideas of how I should be, what I need to be in the world or anything.
Mhm.
And that just reminded me of that so much. Like,
There's no ambiguity. That's why. Because if you have a cat, like you've seen, my cat doesn't care that I'm on a call, jumps on my head, and I can't be mad because he's a cat. It's what he
Uh-huh.
does. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, or your cat bites you. You're not mad at the cat. Well, I mean, you're a little mad, but at the same time, you're like, well, he is a cat.
yeah,
You did have that string hanging from your pants that probably looked pretty good. You know what I mean? But with people, we're so quick to, oh no, you can't act like that. Or we have so many rules, but we created those rules.
yeah,
Mhm.
We made them. They're not real.
yeah,
Yeah.
Well, they are
Yeah.
real because they are in the physical world, right?
yeah.
But
It's just this idea that you receive light from people, but it comes through a filter. It's like you have to
yes,
make those demands in order to receive that light, that love.
Mhm.
yes,
I feel that the cat or the dog or the child even never wills you to be different. The way you are is just something that's done, like it that's accepted. And where do we go from here? Instead of wanting it to be in a different way, the cat or dog isn't like that. This is just what it is. You're like this. You're perfect. You know.
The way you are. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
well, even little kids. I mean, you
Yeah.
pick up your child or whatever, that they don't care what you look like.
No.
No.
They don't care if your hair is a mess. They don't care if it's standing on 3 feet or if you're 700 pounds.
Yeah.
They're going to love you. And the only thing they see is the love that you're providing them.
Yeah.
It's so true.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Thank you so much for that conversation. Okay, so the next section is miracles as true perception. So in paragraph 1, line 5, it is essential that you realize your thinking will be erratic until a firm commitment to one or the other is.
That's right.
Do you guys find that?
Okay, let me just read that again.
Well, I don't, because erratic seems like almost the opposite of peaceful, but I feel good even being in the middle at the moment, you know, because I think it's normal and it makes me feel better than I did before.
Absolutely.
So erratic, I
But and
At least you have some understanding, I guess.
Exactly. To go back to, and even if you're going back and forth, it still feels better than just being in the, not in the dark, but you know what I mean?
yeah.
Yes.
And I find like I do get still worried about stuff, but I find the level of it is not even anywhere where it was before.
Uh-huh.
And like I don't find that I'm erratic, but then when I recognize it, it's like, okay, like what is the truth here? What do I need? Is there forgiveness? Is there an atonement that I need to understand? Like what, where, and also asking too, is the atonement mine or does it belong to somebody else?
Right.
Right? Like, is there atonement that needs to happen in somebody else's life? Like, are they not seeing it? And then praying for that atonement for them,
Mm.
right? Like,
Yeah. So I wonder, I guess in that point, I wonder what the purpose is of it being put in front of you.
mhm.
Is it you as a
Oh,
helper? Is it you as this is yours? Or is it you that, because there's a purpose. If it's sent
absolutely.
to you,
Absolutely. And there's,
what's the story, you know?
yeah. So there's always like whatever it is that you need to learn or that you need to grow from or whatever it is that you need from the situation. And then if you reach that atonement and are completely like, okay, I see the light in that person, I see the light in myself, I see the light in the situation even,
Yep.
then it's like, okay, so now that person, like just pray for atonement for that person, you know?
Right.
Uh-huh.
That was my interpretation, or I guess what I've been trying to do.
It makes sense because I feel he repeats a couple times that we can't reach it without his help. So to pray for his help or to know that you know we're not going to do this alone in a way and that we have access to that help is important.
Oh, it's a huge weight off the shoulders. Like I find it is anyway.
Me too. Mhm.
But like I have my little chimes and every day I like chime and say like, you know what? I need help with this. Like
Mhm.
help
Yeah.
me. Like, show me the answer, show me what I need, show me what I need to learn, show me who I need to, call and ask or, like what do I need just to guide me. And it seems like the more that I do that, I'm
Yeah.
Yeah.
happier in my day and I just
Mhm.
do things without even thinking of it.
It's almost like there has to be. So in the last few weeks, I've been going through a lot that's not relevant, but in a sense, it is. Because what I'm finding is when I'm surrounding myself with people who live in the truth, these aha moments are constant because
Yeah.
I can see past the noise. You know what I'm saying? Like you're not looking at, is this person judging me or is this because you know they're not. So that's off the table. So
Yes.
now you're looking at what actually is going on here. What do I need to see? Show me what I need to see. And it's a lot more clear when you're not swimming in muddy water. And muddy water for me is being around negative people, being around just, all of the things that make us fearful or untrusting or all of that. But once you get away from that, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, wow, I just got that. Wow, I understood that. So I think that's it. I think it's finding your tribe, surrounding yourself with people that are also trying to be in the truth, but you need to see the other side too. It's a balancing act because if you only lived in the light, you would not learn all of your lessons because you need to learn the bad as well as the good, and to see the bad as not bad but just a part of what you need to go through.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. And I think it's been like in the last year that that type of shift in thinking has really started to be taking like solid, like just not reacting to things and just like turning it inward and saying, you know what, this doesn't align with me, or this isn't what I like, what perception am I feeding here? What do I feel
Right.
inside that's not reality? Why do I see it as an attack on me and not just a situation that I need to learn about? You know what I mean? Like, and just starting to wrap my mind around, like, everything is just there to help me rise higher and higher into
Exactly.
myself,
Yes.
you know, and being around people who support that.
Yes.
That's the major, right?
I think ultimately though, like when you're around those positive people that support you, it's a bit easier to,
Yes.
be, but we eventually will be good enough at it that even when we're surrounded by, random people, we can still live that truth and see the light in them and not be phased or unpeaceful because of them.
Yeah, I know. I came across this post the other day, and it was this basketball coach talking to the team, and she was talking about how, everybody says to themselves, oh, I just need to get through this and it's going to get easier. I just need to get
Right.
through that and it's going to get easier. She's like, it's never going to get easier. It's never going to get easier. You need to get better at navigating the uneasy.
That's
Mhm.
right.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what all of this is it's training on how to navigate the uneasy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You don't have to do it alone.
No.
Okay. Moving on. Does anybody else have anything that they want to talk about?
No, I think we're having a good exchange. Thank you.
I really am enjoying it. Yeah.
Me
Okay.
too.
All right. So if we look at paragraph 3, line 5, if nothing but the truth exists, right-minded seeing cannot see anything but perfection. Love that.
Yeah.
If we go into the 4th paragraph, line 2, the mind can miscreate only when it believes it is not free. An imprisoned mind is not free because it possesses or held back by itself. It is therefore limited and will not, and the will is not free to assert itself. Now, this is something that I've been like, I'm trying to wrap my mind around this idea of where the will is, like when we're following through on what the truth is, that, and this, they talked about this several times, is that the will that sits in that truth cannot be ever compromised.
Right. And again, I think that comes back to the muddy waters.
Mm,
What are you thinking about at that time? If that truth is still clouded by a little bit of fear, or, let's say, for example, something's going on and this is just my fear. I know it's my fear and I'm okay. But then you have a little recording back here that's going, are you sure though? Maybe it is you. Maybe you need to do this. So I think what this says is until that's clear, like you're in a place of light, there's always going to be that muddy water in there distorting what that truth is.
mhm.
And keep in mind, we've been told so many lies that none of this should even make sense, really. Like, honestly, that's why we have such a hard time with it, because we've been told lies. This is not true.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that one. And then it starts, the paragraph 6 starts, the way to correct distortions is to withdraw your faith in them and invest only in what is true. You cannot make untruth true. I mean, it sounds obvious, but the thing is, and this is what I've been like, so my internal dialogue is my internal dialogue. How do I
Right.
know sometimes, like, how do you know the difference between your dialogue and God's dialogue? And I think this has come up before, but it's like, sometimes I think I know the difference. And then other times I'm like, do I though?
Right. Do I really?
I know.
I think it's about asking yourself and seeing how you feel when that answer comes. I've been trying to really listen to my intuition a lot and ask the questions and see how the answer feels. Is it quick? Is it a quick response? And how do I feel internally when that answers? Does it feel true or does it feel maybe? If it's a maybe, I'm taking it as that's my ego. If it's 100% done, I'm taking it that, yep, you're right. And I'm trying to trust that. Is it going to be wrong? Probably. But I mean, at some point, I think you get better as you practice with anything, right?
Absolutely. And this is it. Yeah. If you go to line 4 and paragraph 6, truth overcomes all error, and those who live in error and emptiness can never find lasting solace. And it's so, it's the lasting peace that we're all looking for, right? Like that peace of mind, that peace of heart, and being able to be in a world that's so chaotic and still maintain that sense of internal peace inside. That it's when we aren't in that peace that emptiness just becomes so powerful and strong.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. If you go to paragraph 6, line 7, this is the healing that the miracle induces. So when we're in that peaceful state, those miracles can happen so much easier.
Yes. I agree with that.
Yeah. Perception versus knowledge. This was a really interesting little section here. Paragraph 1, line 5, knowledge is power because it is certain, and certainty is strength. Perception is temporary. Now, this is what I find so interesting about this, because I have called knowledge different perceptions as well. When you hear somebody say, this is their knowledge, this is their truth, and you say, well, that's a perception. Right? I don't know. What do you guys think of that?
I don't know.
I don't think I understand what you mean. Sorry.
So if somebody comes to you with a truth that they've discovered inside of themselves, and but it's like when they express that to you, it doesn't feel like a truth to you.
Right.
So then you're like, well, then that's a perception.
Right.
Because truth is truth in everybody. Is that what I'm understanding?
Well, go ahead.
What I understand is that there's one knowledge, so there's only one thing that is real, and it's what we're learning in the miracles. Like, is that shift of perception? That's the only thing that is a knowledge, that's a truth. All the rest is perception. That's how I view it now.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's how I see it too.
Mm-hmm.
So then we would all agree if there was truth being talked about, right?
Yeah, because there's only one.
That's right.
I guess. Yeah.
Okay. That's what I needed to get clear in my own head.
So I guess that when someone says this is my truth, what they mean is this is their perception of the truth at the moment.
Exactly. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay too. That might be where they're at in their lives or whatever. Sometimes you just have to, either disagree or agree to disagree, or just, accept it's their truth at that moment. That's where they're at.
Yeah.
Is it God's truth? No, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that is perfectly okay. If we look down to line 8, misperception produce fear, and true perceptions foster love, but neither brings certainty because all perception varies. I
have that whole paragraph highlighted.
It's a big one.
Yeah. I think this whole 2 pages is all yellow in my book.
I know. Yeah, that is why it is not knowledge. True perception is the basis for knowledge, but knowing is the affirmation of truth and beyond all perceptions. Yeah. So there's your perception, my perception, and then there's the truth, right?
Yes. Yeah. Just like the court of law.
Yeah. I guess that's what they're trying to go for in the judicial system. Paragraph 2, line 2, to recognize means to know again, implying that you knew before. This is something that I've been really wrapping my mind around, is that we have all knowledge and that it's just a matter of remembering what's already there,
Exactly.
which is such a beautiful realization.
I know, it makes me wonder though, like, what's the point? And I know at one point he says in the text later, I think, that we are gonna wonder this, and I can't remember what it says, but why did we know this, and then why did we forget it to have to remember it? What's the whole point?
So I think it has to do with the fact that in the physical, like in the physical body and in the mind, it has to be transferred from spirit to the animal part of the mind in the physical reality. And I think that's what raises consciousness.
But
Right?
why make us forget in the first place? Because he says that the body is a tool to experience, but why did we even have to experience this?
Because
Yeah.
he's doing experiments on us.
I definitely think that is the truth for sure. And but I do know that the planet Earth is in a was in a very darker place. And in order to raise that consciousness, the beings going into it can't remember. And you have to remember through experience to continually choose to keep rising. And that energy rises everything together.
I agree.
Right, because
and
if we already knew, sorry, I keep cutting you off.
No,
My
you
apologies.
go. No, you go.
If we already knew, we would already be raised above, right? If we knew everything, we wouldn't be back. So so let me see, let me try and say this. You go through this life, you learn this lesson, but there's still all of these other lessons that you haven't learned. If you already knew what to do automatically when you came, you would just do it, but that's not the purpose. The purpose is to learn all of the lessons that you need to learn. So therefore, you have a little knowledge from every lifetime. I think you learn a little more, you've accomplished those lessons. And it's guided you to this point. And now these are just more stepping stones to your next lesson from, again, us experiments. God is like, okay, so you got that, right? Just wait a minute. Now I want you to do this. Because it's part of the experiment. If he told you, it wouldn't be any fun. Okay, sorry, that wasn't.
No, I'm just trying to really understand, I feel.
Yeah,
I know,
so one
it's
thing that they talk about often in the Dolores Cannon's work is that the beings, like the otherworldly beings, are strict on there's no, they're not allowed to intervene into what we're doing unless we're getting close to like destroying the planet. That's the only time that they'll ever intervene in our evolutionary process, even though that they, at this point, from what I understand, is they drop knowledge into the atmosphere and whoever picks it up and brings it into reality is who picks it up and brings it into reality.
I understand
okay.
that, but I feel that even Earth and everything that's negative that's happening on Earth is a creation of our mind, because we're not in unity. So all this would not exist and there wouldn't be any saving need to be done,
Exactly.
So I wonder how it became that this even existed. These problems, I mean, that needed to be fixed.
Figured out.
We created them. That's exactly it. We've created them.
And to me, it goes back to the ancient cultures and all of the magic that was created then. That's what created all the fear. And that's our soul. That's like sitting in our soul. That's our early programming. And that has just continued on throughout, right? And I feel like a lot of that programming is what we're living.
Mm.
Oh, 100%.
Because because there was, if you look back at the Egyptians, they were, praying to different gods, not the god, and they were trying to get information on like things that they felt that they needed, or the gods told them that they needed, which created a feeling of lack in the human being. And
Mm.
that's like such an early on programming that's been carried through like generation after generation
Mhm.
after generation, is this feeling that we don't have it inside.
Right.
So it forces us to look outside for the information that's already inside.
Right.
Which is interesting, because the same way that we have to go to the root cause of our problem and heal like the child within, I heard that in Africa they'll do a lot of ceremonies to try to heal the ancestors, because you can't have a healthy community if there's unhealthy not unhealthy ancestors, but you have to go at the root of also where that even started in the human
Absolutely.
history.
Yeah, that
That's
makes sense.
Yeah, that's what I've been coming to lately, as this realization that that's what needs to be done, is to go back to those programming and do the forgiveness work and redirect the energy upwards instead of outwards, and realize, help those beings, even though they're in the past, even though past doesn't exist and it's all happening at the same time. But to go back and help those beings look inwards and move upwards instead of outwards, because there was so much damage done there.
But at the same time, if we're all one collective, by you moving towards healing yourself, you're already healing the collective, because our thoughts are all intertwined. And basically, if it says what we talked about earlier, that it has to be a collective before we can all move up, I think the things that we're doing today and all of the good that maybe, our ancestors did 30 years ago, that little piece is there too. So something sticks. There's something sticking somewhere, because we wouldn't be here we would have probably wiped each other out.
I love that. Yeah.
Right. So I think that for me resonates.
Yeah. And more than likely, it was supposed to be this way.
Yeah.
Like the evolution of the planet is supposed to be and go this direction. There's no wrong direction. There's no wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's about evolution. It's about getting us all to the finish line.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But when you say so much bad shit happened back then, isn't that unreal? Because the only real thing is love. So all that is just made up.
Well, yes and no, because I thought that at first too, but now I'm understanding, and maybe I'm wrong, but what I understand is it is still in the physical world, because we have created it.
That's right.
We've created it. So now it is the physical. So it's first created in the spiritual world. We're created, then we're brought into the physical world. What we create in that physical world is now in the physical world. So we have to still deal with those issues. They're real to us. Like your physical body is still real. If you get hit by a transport, you're still getting hit by a transport. Do you know what I mean? So that's kind of where I see it, that the views are distorted, but it's the reality is still that we have now created it, and we're in the position we're in because we didn't see the truth. We perceived generations and generations of what we've been told. So now it's about righting those wrongs and bringing us closer to where we want to be.
I see. Interesting. But I wonder if we really have to go repair everything here on the physical plane, or just the fact that we shift our perception is going to make us like rise and leave all this behind without having to actually fix anything happening here,
I think we leave it behind. I think because it's not about fixing the world, it's about fixing our minds, right?
Exactly. Okay.
Yeah, because if we fix our minds, then this reality for us becomes our truth.
Yeah. And I like what you said, that just fixing it for ourselves, fixes it for the ancestors and everyone in a way as well, because we're all one. That makes a lot of sense to me.
and that sits in the soul, and the soul stays with the planets. So that information, what we're putting into the soul line, stays here. So that information,
Right.
and it spreads throughout the entire planet so that other people are able to use that information.
Mhm. Mhm.
Awesome. We're at 12:57 already.
Oh my
I know.
gosh. It was so helpful and fun though, this exchange.
I know.
I have to say, I really enjoyed this. Thank you so much. Both you ladies have so much to offer in this conversation. I love it.
Yes, you guys too.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
great.
Yeah.
absolutely, everybody. Yeah, I truly, again, just honor these conversations, and thank you so much for showing up. And we only got like 2 pages. I think
I know.
3 or 4, but it's okay, 'cause there's just so much in it. So, okay, so thank you, everybody, and we'll see you in 2 weeks again.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay,
Have a great day, everybody.
You guys too.